Oh, hello and welcome to another video from sickmaths.co.uk, where you can find lots of free maths videos for GCSE and A level and free tuition online. Go to the website to find out more. So this video is about proof. A lot of the GCSE, this is a GCSE video, a lot of the GCSE requires you to prove things. So why should there be one video about proof? Well, this is a special area of proof that uses certain words and mainly to do with odds and even numbers. Okay, and proving things about them using algebra. Okay, so how, first of all, do we explain or describe an even number using algebra? Well, the typical way is to write 2n for any even number. Okay, because if you've got n is a whole number, then basically 2n would be an even number straight away, because even numbers are multiples of 2, or divisible by 2, so whichever way you want to think about it. Let's imagine n is 5, then 5 times 2 is 10. 10 is an even number. Let's think of another a number for n. N could be, I don't know, 10 or, I don't know, let's say 12. Then 12 times 2 would be 24, both an even number again. Now, if 2n is an even number, then 2n plus 1 must be an odd number, because the next number, you always go even, odd, even, odd, even, odd, so the next number after an even number, so if 2n is an even number, the next one, 2n plus 1, would be an odd number. Or even the one before 2n, which is 2n minus 1, that would also be an odd number. Okay, so that's how you describe even and odd numbers, and that's really important for this topic, because we're always talking about odd and even numbers when proving stuff in this particular topic. Okay, so this is a really good question, because it's very much like so many of the kind of questions you would get for this topic. Okay, it uses words like consecutive, and all sorts of things, and even the question itself is so typical because it's such a mouthful to read and understand. So let's go for it. Show that the difference between the square of two consecutive odd numbers is a multiple of 4. Let's break that down. Okay, what does consecutive mean? Consecutive means one after the other. So say 4, 5, 6, those are numbers that go one after the other. 4, then 5, 5 is after 4, and 6 is after 5, so 4, 5, 6 is an example of numbers that are consecutive to each other. Or 9, 10, 11 are consecutive numbers. Okay, now we want consecutive odd numbers. Well, 5, 7, 9 are consecutive odd numbers. They're odd numbers that are one after the other. Okay. What else do we have to explain here? The square of two consecutive odd numbers. So we want only two consecutive odd numbers, and we want the square of them. So let's just say 5 and 7 are our two consecutive odd numbers. The square of each of those numbers, the square of something is when you square it, basically. So 5 and 7 are example consecutive odd numbers. So 5 squared is 25, 7 squared is 49. Okay, and what do we want to do with the square of these consecutive numbers? We want the difference between the square of the consecutive numbers. Well, when you want the difference between two things, we're basically taking them away. So if I wanted to find the difference of the square of 5 and 7, which are both consecutive odd numbers, I'll do 7 squared, take away 5 squared, because you're obviously the bigger one, take away the smaller one, I suppose. You could do it the other way around as well, but I prefer to get a positive answer. So 7 squared is 49, take away 25, what's that, 24? Okay, so the difference between the square of those two consecutive numbers, 5 and 7, is 24. Okay, and we want to prove that it is always a multiple of 4. Okay, basically it's in the 4 times table. So how are we going to prove it? We use algebra. there's no point proving it for one particular case when just 5 and 7. It might not work for some other numbers. So we have to, if we do it using letters which could represent any number, that means we proved in all the different situations. So as I said before, if we want to write an odd number, you can write 2n plus 1. You can even write 2n minus 1. So I just did that. Okay, and I wanted to find the difference between the square of these consecutive odd numbers. So these are consecutive odd numbers. This is, so imagine there's an even number in between these two, which would be 2n. This is the one after the even number, and this is the one before the even number. Okay, so they are consecutive odd numbers, and we're finding the square of them like this by squaring them, and we're finding the difference between them by taking it away. Now all I have to do is multiply this stuff out. So this multiplies to this. I'm sure you can multiply this stuff out if you're doing such A-star work. This is pretty much A/A star. So if you're not sure how to multiply this out, just do 2n plus 1 times 2n plus 1. That's what 2n plus 1 squared means, and multiply that out. And if you don't know how to do that, well, you need to go backwards and go to the video about multiplying out brackets. Okay, so anyway, multiplying that out gives you all of this, multiplying that out gives you all of that. So all of this is equal to this stuff in the brackets, and this stuff is equal to this stuff in the brackets, and we've yet to take them away from each other. Now if you do 4n squared minus 4n squared, that's going to be 0. 4n minus 4n is 8n, so you've got a minus there and a minus there. Okay, so you have to do a minus 4n, which is 8n. 4n minus 4n is 4n plus 4n, which is 8n. And what about 1 minus 1? That's also 0. So actually all of this comes to just 8n. And we do know that 8n is divisible by 4. As required. So that's how you would do it. This is the working out you would show. It's very simple, isn't it? How do we know that 8n is divisible by 4? Because 8 is divisible by 4. So if you can do 8n divide by 4 and you get an answer, some whole answer or something, that means it's divisible by 4. So 8n divided by 4 is 2n. Nothing else really to say about that. Of course the questions aren't exactly the same as this, but if you understand the principle of how this works and you learnt these words consecutive and square and stuff like that, you might get cube instead. Okay, but usually square because cube just generates massive numbers. Okay, if you understand these basic ideas, you should be able to do any question to do with proof.